Well, good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, June the 3rd, and I wanted to begin by looking at the drought monitor map and take a look at what changes may have taken place over the last week. And I really don't see much in the way of changes here over the Intermountain West into the southeast. You see a lot of red on the map now, and that's indicating extreme drought here over the Great Plains into the southeast, even some exceptional drought here wherever you see maroon. So for instance, here over Nebraska, western Colorado, and parts of Idaho here. And again, if you get into South Georgia here into northern Florida, it's a very large area, right, of exceptional drought. As far as drought relief over the next couple of days, I would say if you live here over the Great Plains, right, Nebraska into Texas, Oklahoma, we could see some beneficial rain here, even extending back into the Midwest here. So if we're looking at, let's say, the Great Lakes region back into Minnesota, we have a large area here that could be experiencing some shower and thunderstorm activity. And eventually this is going to begin to push off to the east in the coming days. So over the southeast, all the way up to the northeast, we'll get chances of rain as well. So I would say that the beneficial rain for sure is going to occur here over the southern plains into the Midwest. And we're talking about ½ inch, maybe to 2 inches of rainfall possible. All right, so I have a new question of the day. So I'm going to see if my audience knows the answer to this question. And that question is, what are elevated thunderstorms? And what is the primary severe weather threat that comes along with these storms? One thing I want to show you here is that what's typical is not the case here. We have actually cold air at the surface. And typically what you want to do if you want to see a tornadic thunderstorm is you want to see warm air at the surface and that cool with height as you rise up into the thunderstorm cloud. One other takeaway here is this warm front, right? You have this warm area of air that's overriding the cold air this time. And this is something that you would typically see during the winter months, especially east of the Rockies. Now, looking at the forecast for Wednesday, one of the main features we need to take a look at here is this large ridge moving into the Midwest and positioned over much of the country here. We can see this red area, right, going through Missouri into Illinois, up into the state of Michigan. But broadly speaking, when you're looking at a ridge, the primary area that's going to receive rainfall is actually on the back edge of it here. So you'd expect rainfall over the Dakotas, maybe into Nebraska and Minnesota here, based on the position of this ridge. Now, we need to take account of also this high pressure system that's off to the east. That can have an impact on the weather as well. And with clockwise flow around it, you can kind of imagine the flow of air out of the north here on the eastern side of it, but also out of the south, right, on the southern edge of this high pressure system. And for that reason, we're going to actually see rain chances in a larger area here than expected. In fact, over Texas here, we'll likely see some rainfall activity extending maybe into western parts of Missouri, through Iowa, eventually into Wisconsin, and back here into these states we just discussed. So I would say over this large area here during the day Wednesday, we could see shower and thunderstorm activity. And as that high pressure tracks off to the east, alongside that ridge, we're going to see rain chances increase for our friends to the east as well. And you'll notice that's the case here as we track forward with time. We can see how the ridge pushes off to the east, and we can see the high pressure actually breaking down with time as well. And those cooler colors are indicative of cooler temperatures actually moving into these same areas. And where we have that boundary set up, we'll have shower and thunderstorm activity. And eventually, as we get into Saturday, Sunday time frame, you can see here over the Ohio Valley in the northeast, those cooler colors moving back into the region. Again, that indicates the shower and thunderstorm activity moving into those areas. Now, further west over Washington State and Oregon State, we can see another trough moving onshore, and that could create additional shower activity as we move into early next week for places like Seattle and Portland. Now, as far as rainfall on Wednesday, again, we were talking about these areas just a moment ago, but basically from southern Canada all the way through the Great Plains here, that's a good area for shower and thunderstorm activity, perhaps in places such as western Iowa, western Minnesota, western Missouri. Now, as we move into the day Thursday, you can notice how portions of Illinois, Wisconsin, around the city of Chicago could get in on the shower and thunderstorm activity, especially as we get into Friday morning. Notice that we have some heavy bands of rain offshore here in the Gulf of Mexico that could move into the city of New Orleans. So there is the chance of some really heavy rain there over New Orleans if these bands do come on shore. Now, as we move into Thursday, you'll notice the shower and thunderstorm activity increases over the states of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and perhaps as far east as Ohio. So over the Northeast, we have some chances here over western New York, perhaps into northern Vermont at this time and northern Maine. Better chances for, let's say, New York City into Washington, D.C. as you get into the day Sunday. Now, looking at the rainfall the next couple of days here through Saturday morning, you'll see a large area of blue on the map over the Great Plains, the Midwest, into portions of the Southeast. And this is indicating anywhere from a half an inch to 2 inches of rainfall. Just to kind of pinpoint some areas here near New Orleans to begin with, over South Texas, perhaps here over the Red River Valley, into Nebraska, and perhaps even over North Dakota too. We have some areas here that could be picking up well over 2 inches of rain. Now, a moment ago, we were talking about elevated thunderstorms, right, that could be developing. And we'll see that during the day Wednesday over the Dakotas and parts of Minnesota. That threat really doesn't move later on in the week here. We can kind of see as we move into the day Thursday, severe weather extending down into northern Nebraska. But once again, we're looking at those elevated thunderstorms forming. And the primary threat here is going to be large hail and heavy rain. So if you were curious about whether or not we could see elevated thunderstorms in your area, what could you possibly look at? What kind of maps could you look at? And probably the best way to detect whether or not you have the chance of storms developing higher up in the atmosphere is looking at a temperature map. In fact, two temperature maps. The one I'm showing you here is a surface temperature map. And you want to compare that to maybe the temperatures at about 5,000 feet. So I want to start us off here at the surface, and hopefully you can identify where this front is setting up here over Minnesota down into South Dakota. And that's where you have the sudden temperature change going from warm to cool here in this region. Now, typically you'd find the thunderstorms out ahead of it. Perhaps in this region here over southern Minnesota, also into South Dakota here. This is where you'd expect the line of thunderstorms to really fire up and get going. However, the best shower and thunderstorm activity is going to actually be behind this surface front. And what may be harder for you guys to read here on the map is that we actually have this warm layer above the surface layer moving over North Dakota and, let's say, northwestern portions of Minnesota. Another thing to kind of point out here is that the wind direction is changing in this area as well. So just ahead of it, we have winds strongly out of the south. Let's say a little bit further to the west of that, we have winds directly out of the southwest. And just to the west of it, we can see how winds are directly out of the west. So winds are really changing direction over this region, which is creating additional wind shear in this area, which leads to the development of strong thunderstorms. And because temperatures are warmer above that surface layer, we're actually seeing elevated thunderstorms, again, thunderstorms developing higher in the atmosphere in this location. Well, guys, initially we were looking at the forecast through Saturday morning. Now, this has taken us from Saturday morning through the day Sunday. You see how the shower and thunderstorm activity really gets going Saturday into Saturday night over the Northeast and moves into Eastern Virginia maybe Sunday morning. And then over, let's say, the states of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia as we get into the day Sunday as well. One thing I want to point out here is that we could have a dry area here over central North Carolina, perhaps into central Virginia here that does not pick up as much rain. Again, a lot of that has to do with the position of the Central Appalachians. It's a little bit higher there, the mountains, and we have many different ridges of, let's say, elevations over 4,000 feet there. Again, that kind of hinders the development of precipitation and kind of dries up things downwind of those mountains. However, another region, again, that really needs the rainfall here over southern Georgia and to, let's say, northern portions of Florida, could miss out on the rain once again. So that's kind of unfortunate. Again, these areas either have severe or exceptional drought that I've outlined here. Now, if you live in Washington State and Oregon, we can see that we have a couple of chances of rain, right? So if you live in Seattle or Portland, Got a chance of rain Saturday and perhaps even Monday afternoon. Well, guys, we'll leave it at that today. I hope you enjoyed today's forecast. And of course, if you have the answer to today's question, just leave that down in the comments below. Otherwise, if you did enjoy today's video, please leave a like or subscribe as it does help the channel. And I hope to see you guys for the next video. Bye for now.